Hello everyone, this is CK. I'm a practicing Scrum Master and an Agile coach. So in today's video, let's discuss on artifacts in Scrum. So firstly, if you're not aware of Scrum or Agile, I strongly recommend you to watch my previous videos. Only then you can understand this, because we're not going to deep dive and explain what Agile and Scrum is. I consider you as like the person who's aware of Agile and Scrum. Yeah. Okay. Firstly, what is Scrum artifacts? There are three Scrum artifacts. First one is product backlog, second one is sprint backlog, and third one is increment. So for all these artifacts, there is a end results, which is like commitment. So if a product backlog is an artifact and the commitment is product goal, which means that the product backlog should have items which focus on the product goal. Okay, so this is the commitment. So for sprint backlog, we have sprint goals. For increment, we have definition of done. So where does this artifacts comes in picture? So artifacts is a kind of documents that developers or the Scrum teams to get the understanding clearly what they are going to do. We have with the artifacts. So when we start the sprint, the first is sprint planning meeting, right? So we should have some documents already present, so that we can start with the planning. So the product backlog has the information about what is the product is about, what is the goal of the product, what are all features we have to develop to complete the product. So using that product backlog, we create a sprint backlog for working on the sprint. Okay. So firstly, the product backlog contains features and the product goal and all other information, which is like we used to say definition of ready. Only if the definition of ready is achieved, that feature can be considered in the product backlog. So the product backlog can be refined anytime, and the owner of the product backlog is the product owner. Only he has the responsibility, or he is the key responsible for the product backlog. If something is missed or some issues are there with the product backlog, he should take the responsibility. So he is the person who can change. Developers can give the advice or stakeholders can give the feedback informations, but the product owner is responsible for updating the product backlog item. Okay. So second was the sprint backlog. When does the sprint backlog gets created? During the sprint planning meeting, the developers, product owner sits together and Scrum Master facilitates that meeting. There are many ways to estimate which feature can be completed in the product. So based on the velocity, capacity and the approach, how to estimate, there are multiple approaches. Using that, the developers, okay, they say that yeah, these two features can be completed with this sprint. So the sprint backlog has the information about the two features. The features are divided into different tasks. So it also has a plan how to complete this features task taken into the sprint backlog. Every information, the sprint backlog is combined with all this information of task, features, plan and sprint goal. Okay. So yeah, now we are clear about the product backlog and the sprint backlog and where it is used and how it is used. The third one is increment. What is increment? The output of the sprint, the outcome of the sprint. Okay. That is considered as an increment. When do we consider a output as an increment? Only when it is accepted with definition of done. What is definition of done? Definition of done is nothing but a guideline where the output is considered successfully created product. Say for example, if a developers are doing a code, it should be a clear code following all the scenarios which is accepted by the organization, or the standards has to be followed. No redundant code should be there, and the testing has to be done properly. How many environments it has to be tested. Everything has to be like followed in a standard. Usually the organization have a standard that is considered as a definition of done at the basic. But in upcoming sprint, every iteration, the team gets matured and experienced. They can update the definition of done. It can be updated anytime. So only if the definition of done is getting improved and matured, the outcome of the product will be more of value. So these artifacts helps the team to follow the empirical pillars, which means that transparency, inspection and adaptation. If we have a product backlog visually available for all the persons in the team, and the product owner can refine it whenever is required, so it gives, and sprint backlog is there, it gives a transparency to the team, which helps us to inspect and adapt the product backlog items or the sprint backlog items every often. So the Scrum is altogether built on empirism. It is achieved through this artifacts as well. As per the Scrum guide, there is no specific event called product backlog refinement, okay, but the product owner, whenever he needs a refinement, he do the change. Whenever the developers find time, there is no specific time, there is no specific event, but it can be done anytime if required. This is all about the Scrum artifacts. So if you have any doubts, please feel free to reach me out. Let us connect in the next video. Good day.